First Samuel chapter 17, Goliath's challenge. Now the Philistines gathered their armies for battle and were assembled at Succoth, which belongs to Judah, and they camped between Succoth and Azekah, and Ephnus Dammim. Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together, and they camped in the valley of Elah and assembled in battle formation to meet the Philistines. The Philistines were standing on the mountain on one side, and Israel was standing on the mountain on the other side, with a valley between them. Then a champion came out from the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. That's pretty big, right? He had a bronze helmet on his head and wore a coat of scale armor overlapping metal plates, which weighed 5,000 shekels of bronze. He had a bronze shin protectors on his legs, and a bronze javelin hung between his shoulders. The wooden shaft of his spear was like a weaver's beam. The blade head of his spear weighed 600 shekels of iron, and the shield bearer walked in front of him. Goliath stood and shouted to the battle lines of Israel, saying to them, "Why have you come out to draw up for battle? Am I not the Philistine, and are you not servants of Saul? Choose a man for yourself and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then we will become your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall become our servants and serve us." Again the Philistines said, "I defy the battle lines of Israel this day. Give me a man so that we may fight together." When Saul and all the Israel heard these words of the Philistines, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. Now David was the son of the Ephraite of Bethlehem in Judah, named Jesse, who had 8 sons. And Jesse was old in the days of Saul, advanced in years among men. His 3 older sons had followed Saul into battle. The names of his 3 sons who went to battle were Eliab, the firstborn, Abinadab, the second one, and third Shammah. David was the youngest. Now the 3 oldest followed Saul. But David went back and forth from Saul to tend to his father's flock at Bethlehem. So even though God anointed him, it was not time, and he waited. So even though God may tell you something you're going to do in the future, it might not be that time to act out on what you're doing. That's a good thing to remember. The Philistines, Goliath, came out every morning and night and took his stand for 40 days. Then Jesse said to David his son, "Take for your brothers an ephah of this roasted grain and these 10 loaves of bread, and run quickly to the camp to your brothers. And also take these 10 cuts of cheese to the commander of the unit. See how your brothers are doing and bring back news of them." Now there they are with Saul and all the men of Israel in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. Okay, David is accept the challenge from this giant. The giant, he was 9 feet tall. Sometimes where it's hard to see and understand that, but I know that the Bible talks about there were giants in the land at those times. And I know even now there's people that are extremely tall, even really tall. It's not a rarity, but there's still a little bit of the DNA from some of that left somewhere along the lines. So David got up early in the morning, left the flock with the keeper, picked up the provisions, and went just as Jesse had directed him. He was obedient, right? And he came to the encampment as the army was going out in battle formation, shouting the battle cry. Israel and the Philistines drew up in battle formation, army against army. Then David left his provisions in the care of the supply keeper and ran to the ranks and came and greeted his brothers. And as he was talking to them, behold, that champion, the Philistines of Gath, named Goliath, coming up from the army of the Philistines, and he spoke these same words again, and David heard him. And when the men of Israel all saw the man, they fled from him, and they were very frightened. So he was talking down their God, making fun of them. And the men of Israel said, "Have you seen this man who's coming up? Surely he is coming up to defy Israel. The king will reward the man who kills him with great riches and will give him his daughter in marriage and make his father's house family free from taxes and service in Israel." So then David spoke to the men who were standing by him. "What will he be done for the man who kills this Philistine and remove the disgrace of his taunting from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he has taunted and defied the armies of the living God?" He's like, you guys are not standing up for what God said. What has God told us? God said he was going to help you win. He's told him all these things. Why are you not listening? Why are you not trusting? Why are you afraid? Why are you letting fear rule your decisions? The men told him, "This is what will be done for the man who kills him." Then Eliab, the oldest brothers, heard what he had said to the men, and Eliab's anger burned against David, and he said, "Why have you come down here? With whom did you leave those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your presumptions, your overconfidence, and the evil of your heart, for you have come down here in order to see the battle." So here's his brother coming around, and he's like, "You know what? I see your overconfidence, and I see the evil in your heart, and I see how terrible you are." Men do not see the evil in the hearts. No, especially with that attitude. God can give discernment to somebody. God can do those things, but it's never to come at you and say, "I see the evil in your heart." No, God sees the good in your heart. God sees and he knows, and that's why David was chosen and not the brother. But David said, "What have I done now? Was it not just a harmless question? I haven't even done anything. I just said, wasn't it a question?" Then David turned away from Eliab to someone else and asked the same question. The people gave him the same answer as the first time. Then it says, David kills Goliath. When the words that David spoke were heard, the men reported them to Saul, and he sent for them. David said to Saul, let no man's courage fail because of him. Like, don't let their courage stop them. And it says, your servant will go out and fight with the Philistines. Then Saul said to David, you are not able to go against this Philistine to fight him, for you are only a young man, and he has been a warrior since his youth. But David said to Saul, your servant was tending his father's sheep. And when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock, I went out after it, attacked it, and rescued the lamb from its mouth. And when it rose up against me, I seized it by his whiskers and struck and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, since he has taunted and defied the armies of the living God. And David said, the Lord has rescued me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear. He will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said to David, go, and may the Lord be with you. So I love this because David, he was confident because of the things that had happened in his life. He had seen God help him rescue his flock from a bear and rescue the flock from the lion. And so he was able to, it's that confidence. And I think that's the same confidence in our own life. It's a lot easier for us to stand up and be confident that the Lord is going to do something when you relive and remember those things that God has done for you, right? Doesn't that build you up? It's, for me personally, I like reading stories and I like reading things on other people that encourage me. I like to hear their testimony. I like to hear what God has done in their life. And the Bible says that you overcome by the word of their testimony, because it encourages you that, yeah, God is for us. Yeah, we're obedient to him. He is for us, right? And and it like encourages you to keep on going and keep on going. That's why it's important to get ourselves in this word, which you are doing. I am so proud of you. I am so proud of you to keep doing this, to stay focused, because you know what? The more we hear it, the more it's going to become part of us and become real. And then you know what? We're able to keep acting out in faith, keep trusting the Lord, hearing his voice, and those good things are going to keep coming and keep coming. When the terrible storms start coming at us, you know what? You're going to be able to say, no, 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 far be it from me, or no, 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 but my God says this, this, and this. So that's the beautiful thing. All right, we're going to keep reading. Then Saul dressed David in his garments and put a bronze helmet on his head and put a coat of mail armor on him. Then David fastened his sword over his arm and tried to walk, but he could not, because he was not used to them. And David said to Saul, I cannot go like this because I am not used to them. So David took them off. Anybody else like, no, you need to have this to go out. You need to listen to this to be able to be this way. You need to do things this way in life, or you're not going to be prosperous. Well, maybe you should just do things the way that God has you do them. You're a lot more comfortable. You won't have to feel like you have to perform, or you won't have to feel like you have to show. You can just be yourself. That's the key. Don't follow after the world. Don't do what everybody else does. Do your own thing and watch God continue to work and do things in your life. It's beautiful. Okay, so then he took his shepherd's staff in his hand and chose for himself 5 smooth stones out of the stream bed and put them in his shepherd's bag, which he had, that is, in his shepherd's pouch. With his sling in his hand, he approached the Philistine. The Philistines came and approached David and his shield bearer in front of him. When the Philistines looked around and saw David, he derided and disparaged him, because he was just a young man with a ruddy complexion and a handsome appearance. The Philistine said to David, am I a dog that you should come to me with a shepherd's staff? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. The Philistine also said to David, come to me and I will give your flesh to the bird of the sky and the beast of the field. I'm going to read here at the bottom before we read the next line. It says, David had embarked on a risky venture. It might have seemed smart to meet Goliath with the best armor, but David had wisdom enough to know that he was going to attack this giant. It would have to be on his own terms. The years of solitary shepherding had given David the time to practice with his sling and the opportunity to know that it was the Lord who gave him the strength and the will to kill the predators that threatened his flock. The insight and practices gained through difficult experiences blossom as wisdom. We can look back on these times with thankfulness, because that is how God has equipped us for the next task. That is very true. All right, then David said to that Philistine, you come to me with a sword and a spear and a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have taunted. This day the Lord will hand you over to me, and I will strike you down and cut off your head, and I will give you the corpse of the army of the Philistines this day to the birds of the sky and the wild beasts of the earth, so that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. and that this entire assembly may know that the Lord does not save with the sword or with the spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will hand you over to us. When the Philistines rose and came forward to meet David, David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet the Philistine. So David put his hand into his bag and took out a stone and slung it, and it struck the Philistine on his forehead. The stone penetrated his forehead, and he fell face down on the ground. So David triumphed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone, and he struck down the Philistine and killed him. But there was no sword in his hand. So he ran and stood over the Philistine, grabbed his sword and drew it out of his sheath and killed him and cut off his head with it. When the Philistines saw that their mighty champion was dead, they fled. The men of Israel and Judah stood out with a shout and pursued the Philistines as far as the entrance to the valley and the gates of Ekron. And the fatally wounded Philistines fell among the way of Sharam, even as far as Gath and Ekron. The sons of Israel returned from their pursuit of the Philistines and plundered their camp. Then David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his weapons in his tent. When Saul saw David going out against the Philistine, he said to Abner, the captain of the army, Abner, whose son is this young man? And Abner answered, By your life, O king, I do not know. And the king said, Ask whose son the young man is. When David returned from killing Goliath, the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistines in his hands. And Saul asked him, Whose son are you, young man? And David answered, I am the son of your servant, Jesse of Bethlehem. Beautiful thing, right? And it says, whose son is this young man? How does this question fit with the fact that David had been serving as a musician in Saul's court and as Saul's armor bearer, and that Saul loved him greatly? How could he not know who his father was? And it says, possibly in Saul's unstable mental condition, he did not recall David, or perhaps he did not know his name. Even if he did recognize him, David was not at court full time until after he had killed Goliath. It would not be unusual for the king to not know anything personal about a servant. Even a servant he appreciated, because you're like, well, you were coming to help soothe your madness in your head, but maybe his mind was so far gone. So, all right, this is your daily Bible chapter. I'll see you tomorrow.